Hi, I'm Dan, this is at Midlife Crisis Motorcyclist, and you join me here today at Donington Circuit for my first ever bike track day. And yes, as you probably guessed by the surroundings, I am doing it with Ducati, so quite the introduction. I'm not going to be doing it on this brand new Panigale, I'm quite glad to say, because as fantastic as that bike looks, it's probably a little bit much for a newbie like me. So instead I'm going to be doing it on this rather lovely Monster SP, which is being given a last polish over by one of the team here to make it extra fast. I think that's the idea of that. So yes, this is going to be quite the experience. Now, when I say this is my first track day, I have actually been out on track on a bike before. I did that IAM training, but that was very much road skills being practiced in a controlled environment on a track. This is very much a proper track day. Look, there's people in leathers, there's bikes with tyre warmers on, there's mechanics, there's paddock stands, there's all the paraphernalia that comes with being on a track. And here is me in my brand new, very obviously fresh Venucci leathers, which I've just had ordered in for this event, very kindly supplied to me to test out. So Venucci, I've not heard of them before, but they're part of the Louis Moto, big European clothing and equipment retailer. So they've sent me a full kit of boots, leathers and gloves to try out, because of course when you go out on track you do need the extra protection of full one-piece leathers ideally. They seem like very high quality. They are on the snug side, I will say, so if you hear me speaking in a slightly more high-pitched voice later in the day, that will be why, but hopefully they will loosen up as has been promised. But what about the bike I'm going to be using? So it is Ducati Monster SP, £13,995. That is quite a lot of money for a kind of a sporty naked, isn't it? But then it is obviously a Ducati. So being the SP, it gets all the fancy bits like the Öhlins forks, Stylema brakes, different exhausts, all that kind of stuff, the fancy adjustable suspension, all those kind of good bits, and of course gold bits, they obviously make you even faster. Engine is 937cc twin, it's got 111 horsepower, which in track day terms is modest, but I think will be plenty to be getting along with. Being a modern Ducati, it's also got lots of kind of rider aids and things like that as well to hopefully keep me on the straight and narrow and not have to test these fancy new leathers that I've got on. So, and as well as that, I am going to be having instruction all day as well from one of Ducati's instructors here, so I'll be getting some one-on-one training, which I'm very glad of. I think I'm definitely going to need, being, well, a new rider full stop, but first time on track on a bike. I have done lots of track days in cars and quite a few here at Donington, so I think knowing the layout, knowing how track days generally work will help me out, but it's obviously going to be a very different experience from what I'm used to doing it on a bike. So there is a level of excitement, there's also quite a lot of intimidation, because when you go out into the pit lane and you see all these guys lining up in there with their Panigales and things like that, it's quite an intimidating way to start your first track day experience. I did also get from Venucci some knee sliders. Whether or not I'll actually be needing those, we'll have to see. Maybe have to get some sandpaper out and scrub them up before I get home, so I can tell everyone I've been a proper knee-down track motorcyclist. We'll see how the day goes. But for now, it's a case of kind of meeting my instructor, learning the basics, what we're going to be doing, and just kind of looking forward to getting out there, really. So let's get going. Right, so here we go. On to my first proper bike track day on the Ducati Monster. I've done a couple of sessions already behind instructor Andy, who's up ahead. Been fiddling around with a few principles, learning race lines and things like that. I've got to say, one thing that has been useful is that because I spent a lot of time on track before in cars, I do at least have a sense of line choice and all the rest of it. And I know Donington reasonably well too, so that's been a big help, but it's a very different experience on a bike, I've got to say. The fact that you can just overtake on any side that you want, that takes some getting used to. And just the intensity, it's like all the fun of being on track, but just magnified by 10 times. There's a lot to take in. So one thing I'm noticing is that I'm having to brake a lot earlier than I would be used to in a car, just because I've only got one wheel to slow me down, really. The front wheel's the only one that's really doing anything. So braking points are a lot earlier than I'm used to, so that's caught me out a couple of times. But basically what I've been learning is a bit of kind of body positioning, so lifting one butt cheek off the saddle, sliding over, raising my eye line to look through the corner, using all the track, and then just letting rip, which is quite unlike anything on the road. I've got to say though, this Monster SP is absolutely, although it's not a sports bike, it's actually a load of fun on the track because it's light, really flickable, very simple, there's nothing to worry about on the bike, but it's got all the kind of Ducati electronics to keep you safe as well. So, and to say it's only got a relatively modest, by Ducati standards, 110 horsepower, that feels like just enough to be enjoying myself without terrifying myself as well. So it's quick enough, put it that way, and although I can't hear much over the wind or my earplugs, it makes a good noise as well. And it's just like through these kind of chicanes, it's just so quick to change direction. And once the tyres warm up, you can really trust it. And you can tell that the suspension is working really nicely. The brakes are massively confidence inspiring. I'm using way more brake than I ever have on the road. I'm also using the quick shifter all the time as well. You've heard me in my other videos saying that I like changing gear with the clutch and kind of changing gear properly when I'm on the road. I tell you what, when I'm out here on the track, quick shifter all the way. It's just one less thing to worry about. Because let's face it, there's a lot to worry about. Is there any chance of me getting my knee down? I know a lot of people get fixated by things like that, but I don't think it's going to happen today. I think I'm going to scuff my knee sliders up. It's going to have to be with sandpaper, not tarmac. Oh, a bit late on the front brake there. Hand needs to be done at me about that. Just kind of slow in, fast out, get the braking done. Early, slow the bike, and then one thing I'm noticing about this Tester Strata Twin in the Monsters. It's got loads of torque, so it's really flexible, and as the speeds are climbing now this afternoon, finding myself a gear up from where I was before, so I might have been third here previously, leaving it in fourth, tipping it in. Got to move that butt cheek across the saddle, look through the corner, wind on the power, and there we go. You know, I am just a rookie, but this bike makes me feel like a bit of a hero, I don't mind saying. And with that, I think I better concentrate and get on with the day. So there we go, there's a flavour of my first track day at Donington. Still going on, as you can hear, there's still a session to go, so I'm looking forward to putting together everything Andy's taught me over the rest of the sessions. First up, though, the bike, though, I've absolutely loved the Monster. It's nice because you don't really have anything to prove when you're riding a bike like this. You know, if you're on a Panigale or something like that, you know, people are going to expect great things, but when you're on a Monster, you can just kind of get on with it. Nobody's expecting too much of you, and then if you do manage to get a couple of overtakes in, it's all the more satisfying for it. It's a really friendly bike. It's nice and torquey, so I found that as we went on through the day, I was coming out of corners a gear up from what I was before, which suggests that maybe I was picking up a bit more speed, but the kind of torquiness of the engine gives you huge flexibility, so you can haul from kind of middle of the rev range all the way up to the red line, and it does sound spectacular as well, and it's kind of everything you want out of a Ducati, really, isn't it? It just makes you feel pretty special. It's been great being at Donington as well. It's one of my favourite tracks anyway. It has been in cars. I love it because there's, you know, elevation changes that just make it a bit more interesting, and, you know, once you're kind of getting up to speed a bit, tipping into the Craner curves on a motorbike is, well, I thought it was exciting in a car, but it's next level on a motorbike. It really, yeah, it's totally blown my mind, to be honest. And this comes from someone who's spent a reasonable amount of time on track. I'm pretty comfortable in this environment, so to see it in such a new light has been a real eye-opener. In terms of what we've learned, what Andy taught me, we went through a kind of methodical process. We started just with the lines, learning the lines, getting basic turning points and kind of when to brake and all that kind of thing. Then we did a bit on body position, you know, say shifting your bum over the seat a little bit, not kind of knee down, kind of, you know, full on body English like you see. You know, there's a brochure shot of the Monster with the rider like pretty much lying down on the track. We weren't doing any of that, but it's just subtle little changes in body position, and then that leads to a bit more confidence coming out of the corners. So found I was getting on the power a bit earlier, and then we talked about sight lines, raising your sight line using kind of visual reference points to aim for. And by the last session, putting all that together, it worked really well. It was like, you know, a kind of incremental building process of adding new skills and then putting them together into kind of one kind of harmonious blend. And I've got to say, it feels like I've learnt a lot in the day, and the difference in speed from when I started this morning and then these latter sessions has been well, without blowing my own trumpet too much, it's all down to Andy really, but it's just been, yeah, I feel like I've come on a long way. I've learnt a lot, but as with anything when you start out, it's always a steep learning curve, isn't it? But yeah, what a buzz. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it was interesting. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do the usual thing, hit like. If you're not subscribed already, if you've not yet ridden a motorbike on a track, I can heartily recommend it. It's an absolute buzz. Still got another session to go though, so I better get kitted up for that. And for now, I'll say goodbye, thanks for watching, and ride safe.